This is 5-time ROH World Tag Team Champion, the Zombie Princess Jimmy Jacobs, and I want you to listen to the source of all things Ring of Honor, the Honor Society, only on the Turnbuckle Tavern. And hey, I'm a princess. I always get what I want.
Welcome to the 11th episode of the Honor Society, covering all things Ring of Honor as we are previewing Death Before Dishonor. As always, I'm Stephen Acefield, the ace of the tavern. I'm joined by my special guest, co-host. I don't know, man. We haven't done this in a while, but Sneed, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. It's good to be back. Feels good to be back on to have Honor Society going again. Got some big stuff to talk about. Big event coming up. We're pumped.
And FREEMZ, we got twitch.tv/FREEMZ in the room, in the building. The beard grew back. Here we are, man.
Yeah, man. I've actually shaved it once since the last time I cut it. It just grows too fast. But yeah.
He shaved it this morning.
Yeah, it's like Play-Doh. I just like squeeze real hard and it comes out. But yeah, I'm excited to be back.
And we have a special guest, the One Bad Chad from the flagship, from the debate. What's going on? And the GCW show. What's going on, man?
I thought I'd stop in and you guys threw out the invite. I'm just sitting here in the studio killing time. I'm like, why not? I'm pumped for Death Before Dishonor. Let's do this.
Hell yeah, man. And make sure you guys go to the turnbuckletavern.com for all your information. We'll do some shilling at the end. And remember, if you're commenting on Twitch, there is the giveaway. So we have aimbot _ TTV1. Tom will be watching. So he'll be adding you to the spreadsheet. You are entered for that Kenny Omega Chase figure, so keep on commenting in the Twitch chat. We are watching, but you know what? Let's get right into it. Let's not waste time. Let's get right into the scoop, talk all the news of Ring of Honor, because we have a lot to break down.
Damn, I've missed that.
Man, these new graphics too, primo. Great job, Chad.
Yeah, we'll freshen them up some more once we get some time. But yeah, color palette. We got to go with the new logo, man. The red and the white. Let's do it.
Looks good.
Yeah, absolutely. We were retiring the gold, so if you got one of those gold shirts, they're now a collective item. So now you guys can get the new shirt that will inevitably be on ProWrestlingTees.com. So let's start with the news, and it's the biggest news of the day. It dropped today. The Briscoes are now exclusive to Ring of Honor. We've been calling for it on every platform we have. They are now full-time in Ring of Honor. Chad, I'll let you take the lead on this. You've been saying to Warner Media, sign the goddamn Briscoes. Seems like they did. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. I mean, me and Sneed have, as soon as we would finish Rampage Quickie for the last, Sneed, 2 or 3 months?
Yeah, about
easy.
That. Yeah.
You know, we've been issuing our statement calling for the heads of all Time Warner executives until they get these Briscoes under contract. I will say, like, I'm stoked. I don't think you can have a new ROH without the Briscoes. It just seems weird and it doesn't seem like it fits. But at the same time, it was announced this is an exclusive deal. This isn't a deal similar to Gresham, where Gresham's got a deal that's kind of a joint deal between AEW and ROH. When Tony Khan mentioned this signing on the media call today, the question he was asked is there any talent that is signed exclusively to ROH? And he just dropped the bombshell. Yeah, the Briscoes are exclusive. They just signed a long-term deal. So it is long-term. It is ROH. Now, even though it has that term exclusive to it, I do think it's Tony Khan. He owns ROH. They can float over to AEW whenever he wants to. I think this is just a way for him to probably appease those Time Warner executives that's been under our skin a little bit. But I'm stoked that they're under the Tony Khan regime of whichever company. We knew they weren't going to WWE. I didn't want to see them just kind of get lost in the sauce of Impact. So to have them actually under the ROH banner, it just feels right to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think you said it best. I mean, they're factored into long-term plans, which means they're going to be here. And I think the biggest quote that he added, obviously making the news that they're exclusive to Ring of Honor, he actually threw some accolades towards the way that we always say. He actually honored them in front of the press and said they are some of the biggest names in Ring of Honor history. They're Hall of Famers. There are some others, but I think that would be a great example of a key act where they haven't really appeared in AEW, but they are signed to Ring of Honor and me. So, FREEMZ, I'll let you take the lead. How are you feeling exclusively about this, specifically with the Briscoes?
I didn't watch it, only read what was being talked about. It's interesting listening to you guys talk about it, because when you hear like the exclusivity, things like that, my mind didn't go to like they're trying to appease Warner Media and AEW. My mind went to there's going to be some sort of show announced, and their exclusivity deal is going to be on TV. That's where my mind went. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a show announced
I hope
some
you're
capacity
right,
on that. I hope I am too, but that's where my mind went. So that's what I've been thinking this whole time.
I
guess it could be what you said. Absolutely. I just didn't think of it from that standpoint. I thought of it from a different standpoint.
And honestly, a TV deal, like say they do have something that now he answered questions in the media call that kind of alluded like he's still waiting for the right deal. He's not just going to sign any deal. It's got to be right for both parties. So he made it seem like he's still searching. But at the same time, in my opinion, that's not news you drop on a fucking media call. That's news that you wait for the pay-per-view and you play some graphic, and that's where you drop that. That's the type of news. You always see AEW drop all out. You know, they'll announce the city and the ticket on sale date at pay-per-view. So to me, a TV deal like that, that's him coming out on Dynamite and making a statement like when he bought ROH.
That's what I was going to say. That feels more like a Tony Khan's going to come out and tell us this live.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously you guys know the history. Fightful reported back in March that a person of influence in Warner Media did not want the Briscoes, so this is a step in the right direction. We talked about this all throughout Turnbuckle Tavern AEW show. We also talked about it on the flagship, but this is an olive branch. I think this is sort of a way to acquiesce them because it's under a different umbrella. They can actually say we have the Briscoes, but they're not under AEW. You probably won't see them on TBS, but we'll get into the other piece of the news here because the TV deal you guys mentioned, and ROH mentioned that they are revamping Honor Club and it's set to launch in fall of 2022. So whether this plays a part in their TV dealings or what's going to be happening with their live programming, he had said it's undergoing revamping. And ROH announced that it's currently revamping its Honor Club program with enhanced elements and functionality. During the revamping, new signups to Honor Club won't be accepted. Current memberships will be extended at no additional cost. And the price of the revamped Honor Club will be $9.99 a month. New ROH events won't be available on Honor Club until 60 days after the show happens. The fact that they're keeping Honor Club as a thing here makes me believe that it's going to be a digital type of platform. I mean, with the pay-per-views, you want to incentivize buying the pay-per-views. You don't want to make them available immediately. That's WWE, that's Peacock's model. But there is some level of intrigue now with Honor Club and also the news that he dropped during the media call about the Briscoes and hinting at TV deals.
Yeah, so, I think that I think the streaming thing is kind of a safety net. I think them having Honor Club like that is something he's appeasing the fans, saying, "Hey, there is going to be a way for you to get the footage, but I still think they're searching for an actual cable TV deal." I think he mentioned in the media call where he's hoping for something with the Discovery partnership. Not to say it's going to end up on TBS or TNT, but this Warner Discovery, they have more channels than just those two flagship channels. So I think he's looking for something bigger, and the Honor Club is just a way to be like, hey, we're not just going to sit on this vault of footage and no fans are going to be able to access it. Plus, while they search for a TV deal, it's a good way to have income coming in. You know, have new people signing up and get some money coming in for ROH while he shops for a TV deal he feels works for both parties.
I don't think they need a cable deal at this point more. I don't know if you guys saw, so I follow the news pretty regularly due to the nature of my stream. Right now, not only are Gen Z and millennials not buying cable, But now most of the baby boomers are Gen X, and the Gen X are no longer buying cable. So like it's getting to the point to where like I don't think they need a cable deal to do this.
No,
I
I'm
think
with
they would
you,
almost
man.
be better served with like a Hulu deal, or I don't think they'll get a Netflix. I think Netflix is actually going to go the OVW route. I don't know if you heard
they've
about
already
that.
announced that.
Yeah. Well, they announced a show, but they also recently announced a live action or live streaming.
Yeah.
So I could see them doing wrestling through that. I kind of would like to see ROH try the other approach and see where it goes. But
I think that's what they're going to go with. I honestly think like HBO Max, Hulu, those are the places that this deal is going to happen on. And to be honest, like once these contracts come up with not just AEW, these TV deals, I think WWE, when their contract comes up, these streaming platforms, especially the big dogs like Netflix and stuff like this, the reason they're researching live streaming capabilities is because they want live sports. And with the money and the deep pockets they have, they will become a major player when sport leagues come up for renewal. Like they'll be throwing their hat because, dude, if Netflix gets the rights to an NBA or an NFL or a WWE, that's fucking huge, man.
Yeah,
I would love it too. Imagine the possibilities too. Like if they did that, not to get too far away from wrestling, but let's say you're an NBA fan or an NFL fan. For example, the Chads know I'm a hardcore Philadelphia Eagles fan. If they went to like the live streaming on like Netflix, you could literally probably just pick the game you want to watch.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the NFL, I believe they're moving away from DirecTV, which is massive.
Yeah,
like the NFL Sunday Ticket is I don't know who is going to gain the rights to that, but we've all said as fans, like put that on a streaming service, where everyone can just buy that and not have to get some fucking DirecTV package. Now, if they're doing that with AEW, if you've got this fan base and then say they turn around and say AEW Dynamite is going to be featured exclusively on Wednesdays live on Netflix, and we're also going to have ROH under our banner, there's going to be droves of fans signing up for memberships that aren't actively having, and most people do have a Netflix account, most. So I think it's smart. I think it's something to keep a close eye on.
Now, as somebody who knows somebody personally that used to sell DirecTV, I know that cord cutting is a thing. Nobody's doing DirecTV anymore. It's a thing it's becoming a thing of the past. Nobody's going to do that. Everybody, and the big selling point for that person when they sold DirecTV, a big selling point was NFL Sunday Ticket, and a lot of people got it just for that. That was
one of those people.
That's the only thing they can hang their hat on. And if they don't have that shit's going away, man.
Yeah.
And a side benefit of having Ring of Honor underneath this AEW umbrella is you can experiment with things like this when I guess it's not as detrimental to the product. Like if you just decide to pull Dynamite from a network television deal and it doesn't work, it's detrimental to what you've been building. Ring of Honor is sort of still growing. And I think right now, if he makes a misstep with Ring of Honor, it's easily forgivable in the eyes of the investors or whoever's backing him as a company. But I agree. I mean, going back to the same concept with sports, Major League Baseball uses the minor league leagues like the Atlantic League, which is local to the Northeast area, to experiment on these new rules, the robotic umpires, the time limit, the pitch count, everything that's going on there, they experiment. And I could see Ring of Honor being that little petri dish for Tony Khan to practice these things and say, hey, is it possible in 10, 15 years for us to be completely digital, maybe less than that? But I mean, I really enjoyed how transparent he was on this call because he was answering these questions with being candid. And I think that's refreshing to see from someone at a high ranking position in the company. He could have said, we're not commenting on that, but he straight up said there's no news on the TV front. They're continuing to talk with Warner Brothers Discovery. Getting a deal done is essential to him, but he won't do it until the distribution deal is right for everyone involved. He talked about Bleacher Report being huge for carrying the pay-per-view on Saturday. He talked about the roster expanding once they have a TV deal. It was like sitting in a room with your friend talking about the company. It was very, very refreshing to hear from him.
Yeah. One last thing I want to say about this TV situation that I think is something that you really have to consider is when Vince McMahon started the network, that was a very forward thinking, trend setting thing to do. He was going away from the pay-per-view model. I remember reading articles around the time that thing was coming out. It was a very risky move. You know, the boxing, UFC, WWE, their bread has been buttered in the pay-per-view market. So for someone to take the risk to go away from those $60, you know, pay-per-view buys to just a $10 a month thing and count on your loyal subscribers to kind of justify that risk with paying that monthly fee, he was kind of ahead of the game. And I think for Tony Khan to possibly use ROH to test the waters of live streaming on the Hulus, Netflixes of the world, that's a way for him to kind of make his stamp, make his trend setting, set a reputation for himself. Like, hey, I'm going to boldly go where no one else is going, and I'm going to be the first one. And he can test. That's the beauty of having ROH. He can test it with ROH without testing it with AEW. He can stay safe, play the safe game with AEW, and then roll the dice with ROH and see how it goes. And then he has a gauge going into the TV contract negotiations when AEW's contract comes up. He can look to how ROH is doing and be like, hey, we're successful with this. You're going to have to offer me more money or we're going to go streaming as well. So I think it's a pretty smart move if he does go the streaming site. And
let's not forget the sports background of Tony Khan plays a large part in understanding the market and where it's going, because involved in Fulham and also involved in Jacksonville Jaguars. He's not making those deals, but he's also hearing about them. And he's in a different world than a lot of the wrestling minds are. A lot of the wrestling guys are stuck in that wrestling mindset. You mentioned Vince McMahon taking a risk with the network back in 2014 because a lot of the talent was hesitant. Their pay was based on buy rates and how many people buy the pay-per-views. And it changed everything. If you didn't get the guarantee deal from NBC and USA and all that money that came from Fox, we'd be looking at a much different landscape. Not the same risk as WrestleMania in 1985, but it's a huge risk that he took, and it paid off in huge spades because of the fact now it's not relying on the product. It's just you're putting things out. It's about live content consistently, and quality be damned at this point. It's just a matter of like filling some hours, and it's changing the model of how people perceive wrestling television.
I just want to give a shout out to Aimbot. He says, this is my first Honor Society episode. Dude, welcome. These guys crush it every time there's ROH stuff going on, they crush it. So become a regular. We love regulars.
Oh yeah. And watch the other shows here on the Turnbuckle Tavern. We got shows every day of the week. Friday, we got tomorrow. We got 2 shows back to back.
Flashback Friday at the Tavern.
Yeah.
Actually see Aimbot and a good bit of the other shows chat. So
that's awesome.
Good to see you, buddy.
We love you, Aimbot. So before we move on from this media call, there's some other notes that not as highlighted as what we talked about the Briscoes and the TV deal. He did mention the pre-orders for Saturday are good, but on different pattern than AEW pay-per-views. He said it will be one of the strongest in ROH history, and that the combined numbers for Supercard of Honor and Saturday show will be the best in ROH history. So again, being honest with everybody and understanding that the number is going to look much different. There was some criticism on the part of some of these wrestling pundits. What we're talking about, if you just slap the AEW name on this pay-per-view, it would do double or triple the amount of buys. But this just speaks to the commitment that Tony Khan has to the Ring of Honor brand, that he's willing to take a financial hit and understand that he's going to get a lower buy rate. People are not going to tune in. You have to really earn the trust of the public. And setting this up as a separate entity, there's some risk in that. And I think at this point, Tony Khan is committed to the cause and committed to the history and legacy that was and is Ring of Honor.
Exactly. This isn't about just making money. You know, obviously he could slap the AEW thing on there and make more money because it's a little more in the consciousness of the casual fan and just the mainstream. But it shows a lot of honor in Tony Khan to be like, no, we're building this brand. I believe in this brand. And he's doing a lot of things on this Death Before Dishonor card that I think shows his love for the history of ROH.
And on a money front too, let's be honest, this has been very smart because he's built it on his own program.
Yeah.
He's built it on AEW. So this, I mean, it's almost all incremental because everything that he's done, he was going to pay for, what Dark and Elevation and all, whatever he's used Dynamite to elevate or to promote. It was already built in.
It's low overhead for him too.
Yeah.
He's not expending all of this extra stuff. A lot of the guys, I feel like it's a win-win for him. I think he's really playing it really, really smart. And Super Card of Honor, it came out that, the pay-per-view buys for Super Card of Honor had more buys than any ROH pay-per-view ever. That's proof in the pudding right there. That was the first show that he kind of came in and just kind of took over,
And it's comparing it to other Ring of Honor buy rates. You can't compare it to AEW. You can't compare it to WWE. You have to compare it to other Ring of Honor. Right now, Ring of Honor is in the same landscape as Impact. You have to consider them in the same level of stratosphere. You can't just say, oh, it did horrible because of the fact that it's, even with the TV ratings eventually when they happen, we have to understand there's going to be incremental growth, like Sneed said, that it takes time to build a fan base.
And honestly, man, these pundits are idiots that are chiming in and saying you could double your money, because those same people saying that, if he were to lean into the AEW brand of an ROH show, then they would be taking him to task and shitting all over him for not making its own feeling and flavor and vibe. Then you would get the ROH loyalists who've been fans of that product coming out after him, because it's like, this isn't the ROH I love. This is just AEW light. So within the wrestling space, you can't win, man. You're always going to have someone critiquing what you do.
And this is like an alternate timeline of what would have happened if Vince McMahon would have pulled the trigger in 2001 and made WCW its own entity after it was purchased. And they did experiment with that on Raw for a bit, where the second hour was like Nitro Light, where you had all WCW referee gear. You had the ring apron was WCW, and he gave up on it quickly because, again, financial hit that he took, and the fans immediately had an adverse reaction to what was going on there. But I think no matter what happens, Tony Khan is along for the ride with this ROH stuff. And for better or for worse, we're going to see where it goes.
Yeah.
So he continued to talk about how Ring of Honor and AEW will be still, even with a TV deal, he would like to see Ring of Honor champions on television going forward. Not sure if he's just using that as a segue to make it seem like he's not just using it to build up a pay-per-view that otherwise would have had any other place to be built. But it is interesting that he still wants ROH champions competing on AEW television, not maybe weekly, but monthly, something like that. Are you guys cool with something like that?
I
don't
know.
How you feel about it?
Go
ahead, FREEMZ.
No, you go ahead.
I'm okay with it as long as it's not overdone. I don't think there should be a spot where right now it's a lot, because it's the only spot where you can build this pay-per-view. You want to get as many people to buy it as possible. But when you have a TV deal, I think they should be separate entities. You shouldn't have them too much crossover, because then it starts to feel like what we complain about with the brand split. Raw and SmackDown are the exact same thing. You want it to be very separate, away from each other, so when they do interact, it's special.
Super fights. That's all I want to see. I don't want to see cross-pollinate. Once they get it, I understand it now, and I'm totally cool with it now. But once they get their weekly show where we can follow the stories of ROH week to week and not have to jump around, time scheduling like it used to be with Sinclair, I think once that happens, I only want to see matches where you feel, like say Danielson's the champion. He's Gresham still reigning as champion. And you start to hear that kind of underswell in the fans of like, man, those two guys need to match up. Then I'm okay with a super fight, like Briscoes FTR. That's a super fight. I think I'm okay with that, but I don't want to see like constant cross-pollination, because honestly, I think it not only does it do a disservice to ROH, it also does a disservice to AEW. There's a lot of people on that roster in AEW that they're giving up valuable screen time right now to push Death Before Dishonor on their weekly show. So I feel like you're crowding that program and you're kind of shortchanging ROH at the same time. So
Yeah.
Once they get
Not
TV,
to be too contrarian, I do agree with you that it's a super fight, but FTR is the Ring of Honor champions. So, like, and the Briscoes are kind of the biggest tag team in Ring of Honor. Like,
Yeah.
there's not, we don't even know who the tag teams are in Ring of Honor, really, besides old
Gates
buddy.
of Agony. That's pretty much it.
yeah.
So,
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, right now FTR, I guess you could say, is technically ROH, but they're kind of in a weird spot where they're
won't
tag
be.
champs in 4 different promotions or 3 different promotions.
Yeah, I don't want to harp on it too much, but I don't want to see too much cross-pollination, but I do want to see it.
But I think also, too, we look at John Gresham, how he's being built. Until 2 weeks ago when he turned heel and had Tully Blanchard in his corner, he felt like just a mid-carder with the ROH title, and that should never be the case. He should feel like a special on level with Jon Moxley, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson. Your AEW main eventers should feel exactly the same as the ROH main eventers. And if they're not, chances are if you have them interacting, they're going to feel lesser than. It's just the nature of how it is. These are bigger stars in AEW. John Gresham has not had the national publicity that all these other guys have had. But if you leave him on separate brands and let him just do his thing on ROH, he's going to feel bigger. So inevitably, when they do have that super fight, Bryan Danielson versus John Gresham feels much more important than, oh, we felt like we saw them interact on Rampage the other day. So it needs to have a special feel to it.
And this is a little. Go ahead, FREEMZ.
Well, I was gonna say I agree with you, and I want to get more into it, but like, there's some stuff we're going to be talking about later that I think it fits in that spot a little better. So I do have opinions on this with Gresham and stuff, but I looked at the lineup. I have a feeling Gresham's not going to be the champion, but we can talk about that.
It's a good transition to our last piece of the news. So FREEMZ masterfully done. So the most recent set of AEW Dark tapings took place in Orlando over the weekend, and it may have potentially spoiled the main event of the upcoming Ring of Honor pay-per-view, Death Before Dishonor. So someone clipped this tweet. So it is Jonathan Gresham appearing without his Ring of Honor championship during a match against Jordan Oasis, marking the first time since the Octopus has been seen without his title on AEW and ROH programming. This could indicate that he could be losing the title on Saturday, especially if this episode of Dark is scheduled to air on YouTube after his title defense against Claudio. 2 weeks ago on Rampage, Gresham turned heel, as we know. It should be noted there is a possibility that this episode of Dark will air ahead of the event, and this is all just one big coincidence, or just to get people chattering about Claudio potentially winning the ROH championship. I think this is much to do about nothing with Tony being lazy, because we see this in WCW, people showing up without titles. I'm doing it in 1996 with Shot Nostalgia, so I'm seeing this happen 25 years ago. Is there a chance that Tony Khan just had a misstep here?
What do you think, Sneed?
I think it's calculated. I don't think it's a misstep. I think it's a calculated thing to have conversations like we're having right now.
Yeah. He's such a stickler for the details. I just can't see him being like, hey, we're taping this show. He's not the champion, so send him out without his belt. Fans are going to talk.
I feel like that's something like if he comes out with the belt, somebody's going to, with people there, they're going to pick up on that like that.
Well, dude, either way you go, if he comes out with the belt, you're telegraphing your finish. If he doesn't come out with the belt, you're telegraphing your finish. So either way, you're fucked. You're ruining your main event. So
I didn't even think about it if he came out with the belt, because even if he came out with the belt, they're going to be like, well, yeah,
right.
Well, that's the thing with WCW. We see they tape in bulk. They were taping 6-7 weeks out in advance, and they would just have categorically, they would say, no one comes out with a title on Saturday night or Saturday morning, whatever they were airing those WCW tapings from Universal Studios, because of that fact. So, we also had the fact that, you had, I forget who it was, won the Cruiserweight Championship, and he didn't air. So he was showing up on Saturday night with the title, and they had to like blur out the title on his waist or cut the camera. It's a mess. This is why you don't tape in bulk. I understand it does cut overhead by a lot, but I don't know. I agree with you guys. I think it's calculated because they want us to talk and say, wow, Claudio is probably going to win the title. But we'll do our predictions later, but I don't know. I think it is something because Tony Khan is such a stickler, as you said. He doesn't let shit like this slide under himself.
Yeah.
All right. And the last piece of news here from the call was Colt Cabana will be involved in Saturday's show. So FREEMZ, I know you're happy about that. Tony Khan was asked about the relationship between Cabana and Punk and potentially working together, but he declined to answer. So some courageous reporter asked the question we're all thinking about. Maybe they're not going to be allowed back into the media session next time, but we still don't know. I think him not saying what he thinks is all we need to know. It's still some heat there between the two of them.
Either that or something bigger's planned. I don't know. I think it's Tony Khan. I don't know.
Oh,
they
wow.
could have. Yeah. I mean, what if Colt Cabana does work the show Saturday and CM Punk is somehow involved, even though he's injured, but in a non-wrestling capacity? Like, it wouldn't. I'm not saying it's likely, right? But I'm just saying that situation proves nothing to me.
Well, I know there was reports a couple weeks ago that came out that Cabana's AEW contract was not going to be picked up for renewal, and he had a lot of fans in the back. And if I were to bet money on it, I would say it's probably the Bucks. And people kind of convinced Tony to keep him in some facet, and that was pushing him over to the ROH roster, which I think he fits. Do we really need to see Colt Cabana continue to do the Dark Order thing? I think he's much more serviceable, not only in the ring, but I think Colt would be a phenomenal guy behind the scenes at ROH to kind of, act as a producer or coach or whatever you want him to do.
Okay, here's my, I don't know if it's a hot take, but I'm going to be a little bit spicy.
Hit the run button. I'll change the landscape.
Yeah.
If Tony Khan getting rid of Colt Cabana and not having him in part of Ring of Honor, getting rid of him after acquiring Ring of Honor is just as cucked as him not hiring the Briscoes.
Yes.
In my opinion. It's just as shameful to me.
What's moves like that, like if he wouldn't have signed the Briscoes, if he wouldn't have signed Colt Cabana, it's moves like that that are going to create doubt in those hardcore ROH fans. That like, hey, you have our baby. Are you going to treat it okay? When you're cutting people that fan base loves, I think you're already breeding dissent before you even have a TV deal.
Yeah, the base of the company, the promotion, the presentation needs to be guys that everyone's familiar with that have ROH pedigree. And then you can start to sprinkle in new guys like Lee Moriarty. If you want to build him as an ROH guy, or even like bringing Matt Sydal. I know he has a history in ROH. But you need the Colt Cabanas. I know CM Punk's not going to be there full time, but you need his nod of approval. You need Bryan Danielson getting involved. Of course, you need the goddamn Briscoes, Claudio. All these guys are so important to what he needs to build, because if you want it to be in the spirit of what ROH really is, those guys are the heart and soul of what Ring of Honor was and is still today.
Agreed.
One thing I love is that when Ace mentions the Briscoes, he more often than not calls them the goddamn Briscoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Always pops me.
Put some respect on that name.
Yeah, I mean, I love them, and you know what? My fandom does not match up to the two bad Chads of the Briscoes, but I don't know who does, man. That is a love affair that is for the ages, the Briscoes and the Chads.
Dude, that honestly, like, that's why I loved the first match. That's why I love this rematch, is because that is my two favorite tag teams going at it. And then at Supercard of Honor, you throw in my third favorite tag team in the mix with the Young Bucks. So those three tag teams got a special place in my heart.
And I mean, also including the Bucks in some capacity in Ring of Honor, because you can't forget their run through the mid 2010s with, obviously Cody and everything they did there. They helped keep ROH afloat and change what it looked like, so there's different eras of ROH, and the Briscoes, funny enough, have been a part of every single one of them. But we look at the different eras with the Bryan Danielsons, and we look at the Buck era and Cody era, and then obviously the later era. But the Briscoes were a part of all of it. That's how crazy it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you guys ready to move to top honors? We're going to preview card to card. We'll start with the lower card, move all the way to the main event.
I just want to make a claim right now. The Briscoes are ROH's Undertaker.
I like that.
I love that.
They've always been involved, even though they left. They left because there was nothing there, and then but everything that's been aired since it's been back, Briscoes are on the one-time show. They're on this show, like they're there.
They're kind of the tried and true That's why I said, man, you don't have an ROH without the Briscoes. They're there, man. They have to be there.
Yep.
100%. So let's move the top honors, and we're going to go, just to be clear, we're going to talk about the matches. We'll make our picks, and then we'll go from there. But we'll just riff. All right, so usually in this section, we talk about the matches we like best and everything that went on with ROH, but we are previewing match by match. I have the match cards. The only one I don't have is the one they added from yesterday, which is a pre-show match. We'll talk about it briefly. Willow Nightingale taking on Allison Kay. This will be a rematch from August 2021, where they wrestled in the women's title tournament. Start with you, Sneed. Interest in this Willow Nightingale run through ROH? I think it's fair to say she's going to be a big piece of their women's division.
I think she is, and I like her too. I think she adds something interesting. I think I enjoyed her on Supercard. I enjoy what she's been doing in AEW. I think she's good.
Yeah, I
FREEMZ,
think
any thoughts on this?
She's fresh, man. I
mean,
think she's a different take.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if you remember the last time after the last pay-per-view after I gushed over Willow Nightingale. I think she's great.
Tony does like her a lot. I mean, she's involved in AEW television. I mean, a lot of times on the undercard, but she's on Dynamite last night. She's on Rampage all the time. So that he likes a lot of what she's doing. And I think she's right now biding her time until ROH has a TV deal where she could be full-time there. And I think she's going to be a huge part of that women's division.
Yeah, and Allison Kay is no pushover, man. Allison Kay, I think she holds the NWA Tag Team Championship with the Hex right now. Maybe they've dropped those titles, but she had a big match on an AEW pay-per-view. I forget what it was. I believe she was on Full Gear. It was a pre-show match, and I know her and Thunder Rosa tore the house down in NWA for the NWA Women's Championship before Camille took it. So Allison Kay is a very, very comparable wrestler.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, the match is good. They said they're going to add more pre-show matches, so this is not the only one that was there. So I'm sure we'll see more announced over the next couple of days, maybe even on the Saturday morning. And we know that Tony Khan likes to run his pay-per-views like UFC pay-per-views, so some of the undercard is not even announced. It just gets tossed out there, and you just enjoy them until it's time for the main card. All right, this first match here shocked me. I'm going to be honest with you. The six-man tag team championship on the line with the Righteous defending against Dalton Castle and the boys. So Vincent, Bateman, and Dutch are the reigning defending ROH six-man tag team champions. We know that they've held the belts. We thought they were holding them out from being in ROH and defending these titles because they wanted to introduce the AEW six-man championship. So, Chad, I'll start with you on this. What were your thoughts when you saw this pop up on Dynamite? And isn't it weird to you that they're doing this?
I was surprised just because, like you said, we all kind of thought that they were just going to absolve these titles and go with an AEW trios title, but I love this. This is the way it should be done. This gives me even more faith in Tony Khan and the way he's handling this, because if he would have just let these titles die on the vine and Vincent and Tyler Bateman and these dudes just would have, kind of wrestled in the indies, and they're still technically the lineal six-man tag champs, that's kind of a black mark. That's an asterisk on your roster. So for him to bring those guys in, I think that's really, really cool, and it gives me a lot of hope for how he's handling everything.
Yeah. Also, I don't know, did any of you all watch Control Your Narrative?
I did not.
I watched it. It's pretty dog shit. But one of the bright points was the Righteous. They probably had, if not the best match, the second best match of the night. I love how Hollernet has controlled Sneed into this face that he is making.
Well,
at first, I thought he was looking at me in disgust, but
Vincent's doing a lot of great work in Impact. He's in that Honor No More faction, so I don't watch a lot of Impact, but I do tune in for him. I agree with you guys, but I do see that they're probably going to do exactly what Chad was saying. And for this reason, they're probably going to have a unification match. As soon as the 6-man championships are announced with AEW, they'll do their thing. And I think they're going to get rid of the ROH one. I think they
I don't know why they would do that. I don't think it makes sense to do that. I really don't.
The roster,
especially if we're trying to make two separate entities, but we don't even know what the roster is going to be yet once there's a show.
Right.
There could be a massive roster and enough room for a trios title, and then they won't have it anymore. It'll be ever like it makes no sense to get rid of it. I don't think. I don't know.
It's fair point.
I'm a heart. I don't know. The trios titles belongs in Ring of Honor more than it does AEW, in my opinion. Like that's like one of their things, and for the to be taken away from them and given to AEW would kind of like piss me off a little bit. I'd be a little salty about it.
I think there's room for both companies to have their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think Ring of Honor needs a TV deal to thicken their roster so they can support a true trios division. Because as far as like, if you're just looking at talent, AEW is built for a trios title. Like they have so many trios, but I think by both companies having a 6-man tag, it makes the division itself stronger. You know, where you can have more and more teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm cool with there being one in each company, like a trio championship in ROH and a trio in AEW. I'm against the idea of unifying it and then moving it to like AEW and it just being passed around there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I see your point for sure. And I think if you think about it, they're going to have two sets of tag team belts. They do right now. So why wouldn't you have the 6-man division? Because normalize it in wrestling. It just is a progressive way of thinking about things because the 6-man championship is sort of weird to people that have been watching WWE and WCW. Well, WCW had it for a bit, but modern day wrestling, you don't really see it. So the 6-man tag team championship has, I understand it could have a place in both companies, but for right now, if I'm Tony Khan, I would have introduced it in AEW because now this is people, AEW fans are going to see it for the first time in a Ring of Honor. Maybe that just shows the faith he has in ROH.
Yeah, I think I love that it's something different. You know, other companies aren't doing 6-man tags. I just love that Tony Khan is open to having a trios title because it's something that I think a lot of other companies view it as a failed belt. They never want to roll the dice because it does consume a lot of your roster. It takes a lot of talent to have a division like that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's true to have like a dedicated 3-man tag. Like, yeah, you're not wrong.
So as far as predictions goes, FREEMZ, are you having the Righteous winning and getting their first defense since December 2021, beating Dalton Castle and the boys, or do you see a title change here?
Seen a title change. Put it on Dalton. I'm a Dalton fucking fanatic. All right, I want it on Dalton and the boys.
Love Dalton Castle.
I'm with you. I think.
Could you imagine the pageantry of Dalton Castle with his belts? And I have a feeling Dalton Castle will wear all 3 of them.
Yeah. He'll either wear all 3 or the boys will just walk and carry them behind him. Like all 3 of those belts are his, you know?
Yeah. Yes. I love the idea of it. And it puts a spotlight on the boys.
Yep.
Who are good.
Yeah. The Tate twins, right? Is that who the boys are?
Yes.
And for people that don't know, the Tate twins have been kind of a staple on Dark. They've done a lot of matches on Dark, AEW Dark. So I think with the Righteous, especially Vincent, you know, kind of being wrapped up with Impact, I think this is a way to show good faith to those guys to properly take the titles off of them. I think Dalton Castle and the boys take the belts.
And we still don't know as far as roster goes if the Righteous have any sort of place in the future ROH. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I think we do know Dalton Castle has a future. He was involved in Supercard of Honor. He's been on the undercard for a bit there, you know, whenever they're doing ROH matches. So, yeah, I would say I think the Righteous are going to win, but I just think that's only because right now the roster is not set up. But I wouldn't be shocked to see you guys being right.
What I would really love is they've already got Khan there. I know he's tied up with Tully Blanchard Enterprises, but man, bring back Shane Taylor Promotions. They were the guys who got those 6-man tags taken off of them by the Righteous. Shane Taylor Promotions, O'Shea Edwards, all of those cats. I would love to see them stir some shit up in this match. And Shane Taylor needs to be in this company. I think he's one of the most undervalued guys in Ring of Honor. I think he's a guy who could be a top guy. He has Bully Ray vibes. Like when Bully Ray went to TNA and kind of reimagined himself as this super heel, Shane Taylor has the attitude, the promo abilities where if he's used right and a good booker gets behind him, he could be somebody.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Shane Taylor has visited the Tavern before, right?
Yeah, go back in our archives. He visited us several months ago. Great dude. Great dude.
So we're rooting for you, Shane Taylor. I mean, I would love to see him back, and he is a spirit of the more modern day ROH. It'd be great to see him come back here.
Like a modern day Nation of Domination was their gimmick, but I know everyone says that but it was totally different. But for people that want to try and know kind of what they were about, it had that vibe, and I loved Shane Taylor Promotions.
So moving on to the next match here, and it's the ROH Pure Championship on the line. Our boy Willa Yuda taking on Daniel Garcia. This match has been built up for a bit here as well, with the Blackpool Combat Club taking on Jericho Appreciation Society. There's a lot of history here. FREEMZ, we'll start with you. Previewing this match, what's your hype level for this, and do you see what's happening prediction wise?
Okay, so I'm gonna give some hypotheticals here. If Tony Khan announces a new show at this event, Daniel Garcia wins it, and he's a Ring of Honor guy. But I think that's not going to happen, and Willa Yuda is going to take it because you don't want him to lose that fire for nothing. You know what I mean? Like they've strapped a rocket on this kid, so. And if he does lose it, he ain't losing it. Well, I guess it'd be hard to not lose clean. You'd have to lose it. It's the pure title, so
yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of my take on it.
It's a tough decision to book this year because both guys are really being booked strong. I know Daniel Garcia's lost in the last few weeks, but Wheeler, it feels like he wins every time he's out there. Feels like the momentum's with Wheeler. Wouldn't shock me if they moved it to Daniel Garcia, but I think it's a toss-up. Match is going to be good. Lost in all of that, booking decision aside. This will be the first time you're having two established AEW characters introduce this pure rules style wrestling match. They did it on Supercard of Honor. It was done in a way where people were unfamiliar with both guys. You know, they had the match with they had a familiar face, but then, you know, they also the defending champion was not familiar to a lot of AEW fans. But the fact you have two very established characters on AEW television that had been pushed very strongly. Let's be honest. Both these guys have been pushed for mid-card guys. They have been booked stronger than anybody else in the mid-card.
I don't think
this match is going to be great.
Anyone's been pushed harder than Willa Yuda, though. Like,
he's had one of the best pushes, man.
Yeah. So I don't see that ending without some sort of. The only reason I would see to end it is if they are trying to establish some sort of ROH roster, and Daniel Garcia is that. I'm not saying that he is that, but if he wins, he is that, I think.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Ace.
I'm just saying before we move on to prediction, and also having similar vibes to New Japan Pro Wrestling, where you have stretching out these factions into different levels. Like, you know, you have the Bullet Club that's in Ring of Honor and also New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's possible to have JAS and also Ring of Honor and AEW and split them up where you're represented and they can be elsewhere. They're not tied down to being right next to Jericho or right next to Moxley at all given times. They're flying that flag elsewhere. And I think it's possible both are just full-time in ROH when it goes full-time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think these two guys, you don't want to raid your AEW roster of its young up-and-comers because both of these guys are tied into pretty popular factions right now, JAS, BCC. But honestly, man, these two guys could be the future of ROH. Like they are cut from that cloth. You know, I believe at PWG, they had a 60-minute Iron Man match that kind of took the indie world by storm maybe a year or two ago. It was in between the time of Yuda coming back to AEW and signing and Garcia. I think outside of Briscoes FTR, this is going to be match of the night. I think these kids are going to crush it. I'm super stoked for this match. I love both of these guys. I think 10 years from now, they're going to be the top guys of pro wrestling. They're going to be in that upper echelon of guys that we like.
So
Yeah.
Sneed, you joined us here. We got you back, hollering at gotcha.
Wouldn't be if
Wouldn't
it
be Honor Society without one person getting knocked out with the holler net.
Yep.
We're just talking about Wheeler
Come back,
Yuta, Daniel
baby. It's
Garcia.
Okay.
Just give me your take on it.
Honestly, I don't think a title change is out of the realm of possibility, but man, with how red hot Yuta is right now, I don't see it happening. I don't see it. I just don't see them taking it off with everything he's done with Blackpool. I mean, not saying Garcia hasn't been making waves too, but to second what Chad said, these guys are the future. If he doesn't win the title now, I don't think that matters.
As far as match placement goes, I think this has to open the show because this has the chance to be a crowd killer because of the rules. It's so methodical. And I think from the jump, the crowd's going to be hot. They want to be involved. So I think the way to get this in the best possible spot would be to open it, because I think the match that they had at Supercard of Honor with Wheeler and who did Wheeler wrestle? It's escaping my mind at this point, but it killed the crowd, absolutely murdered the crowd, and people, it damaged the match. So I think it's very important to put it in the beginning so people can kind of get a grasp of what's going on, and they'll stay hot throughout it. And it gets the momentum in order to be as successful as it possibly could be. This match is going to kill. I'm going to love it, but the crowd involvement needs to be there as well.
Josh Woods, by the way.
Josh Woods. There you go.
Yeah, that's who he took the title off of.
Yeah, so you're familiar with Wheeler. He was getting his push already at the time. But Josh Woods, I mean, Ring of Honor alum, we know him. Obviously, I don't. I didn't know where he actually wrestled, but he's a good character. But I think this match is going to really do a good job of introducing the AEW fan to the Pure Rules, because you have Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta, who you know very well at this point.
Yeah.
Any other takes on this match before we move on to the television championship?
I think Yuta takes it. That's my prediction. I think they keep it on him.
I want to feed what I was saying to you all to Sneed real quick. Does your opinion change if they announce a Ring of Honor show and they're trying to establish a Ring of Honor roster? Do you think they put it on Daniel Garcia and he becomes an ROH guy? He never was an ROH guy, but he was an Evolve guy for a while. And I always view those as like hand in hand for some reason, but
I don't think it changes my opinion. I think Yuta still retains.
Interesting.
I think there's more story with the JAS than there is with the Blackpool Combat Club. I think Blackpool Combat Club is so established as far as being able to branch out, especially with Danielson out for the time being. They're all doing their own things. I think JAS is very faction driven as far as the storyline. They were in the shark cage last Wednesday night, or last night, I should say. I think Wheeler takes it. It's going to be an awesome match. I would love to see Daniel Garcia have a place in ROH, but I think for the time being, Wheeler's
got to throw a wrench in, and I don't want to jump the gun and get predictions for the main event, but I think if Claudio beats Gresham, then do you have BCC holding the AEW interim world title, the ROH world title, and the ROH pure title? You know, like,
oh wow,
didn't even think about that.
At that point, you know, I think that is a big thing. If I don't think Claudio and Yuta both win, I think someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. So it kind of, I don't know what they're going to do. That makes it interesting, I think.
More so than anything, this is a very hard card to predict. I'm sitting here as I was combing through this earlier in the day, just like, oh, let me see who I'm going to pick. This is just really hard. And like AEW, I usually have a knee-jerk reaction for the AEW pay-per-views, and right or wrong, you still have a knee-jerk reaction. I had no knee-jerk reaction for most of these matches.
Yeah, and I think what makes this a little unpredictable, there's not that dedicated weekly TV. Yeah. So you don't have a really good handle on the stories and how they're pushing guys, and you don't know who they're going to kind of saddle their cart to. Say they have a TV deal on the horizon. Who do they want being the face of it? Gresham, Claudio? Like, we know that Claudio, originally before Danielson went down before Forbidden Door, Claudio was supposed to debut at Death Before Dishonor. He was supposed to be that big surprise. So who knows, man? Who knows what's going to happen? That's the beauty of it right now with the no TV deal. It is kind of like up in the air. You don't know what's happening.
You hear it so much with your with predictions too. It's if there's a TV deal, then this.
Right.
If there's not, then this.
That was the first
Right.
10 weeks of our show. We pretty much said,
Yeah.
if there was a TV deal, yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you guys, but Tony Khan, let's just say this, he very rarely denies going back on the path he originally intended. He may go off on the side trails for a bit, like when CM Punk got hurt and he put it on Moxley. I think inevitably it always goes back to where he wanted to be. So Claudio, I feel like, was earmarked to be involved in Ring of Honor from the jump, and rightfully so. He has a huge history there.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of guys with huge
I was just
history,
thinking about what Chad was saying real quick. Could
Sure.
you picture Blackpool Combat Club with all that gold though?
I could.
I
Yeah.
could too.
It's very easy for if any faction is coming down with all the hardware, it's that faction.
Yeah, with William Regal coming down with them, man, dude, I'm getting giddy thinking about it. Like, yeah. Wow, I said Yuda from the beginning, but yeah.
Imagine all of those guys holding straps. Danielson returns from his injury and gets tied up in a feud with Wardlow.
Yeah.
wow.
Or a feud with Pac for the All-Atlantic. I mean, who knows what could happen, but then it would add weight to Danielson going after a title. That becomes story because the whole crew is holding gold.
Yeah.
Armageddon 2003 vibes or 2004 when Evolution had all the gold.
Yeah.
Very, very awesome to think about. But two guys with history in Ring of Honor, Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal. This feels like it's been brewing forever at this point. This match has been building since Supercard of Honor when Samoa Joe debuted. So Samoa Joe defending the championship. This is the first time we'll see Samoa Joe in action in quite some time. He's been battling some injuries. Feels like Jay Lethal's on television every week. They've been pushing him in that way. And Jay Lethal has other plans elsewhere. He's working Nashville in the Ric Flair final match. So big plans for Jay Lethal. Sneed, we'll start with you since you just got back from the HollerNet land. What's your predictions here, and how are you feeling about this match?
I'm pumped for this match, and watching the build-up video that AEW did on this, where they had Lethal sitting there listening to himself talk about Samoa Joe, and then Joe talking about, it's like painting the Mona Lisa and then taking a knife to it. Like the build for this in that video, like I was excited for the match, but that really made me excited, showing, the footage, the history between them, because I didn't know all the history between them. But they painted it very well. In the as far as my prediction for the match, I think Lethal takes it. I think Lethal takes the title from him.
I'm with you.
Gets Joe away from the television. He's bigger than the television championship, if we're being honest. He needs to be involved in the world championship picture. Either AEW or Ring of Honor. He's a main event guy.
Yeah, I mean, his signing, I mean, it was really big news for them to have that signing, but I just don't think that he's going to retain. I think him being there, he doesn't need to have that title.
I'm still going Samoa Joe. I don't know. I don't think I don't even like the idea of Lethal holding that title right now just because of his character right now, but it's just more of maybe I'm just biased. I don't know. I love Samoa Joe. I like Jay Lethal. I just haven't liked his work lately that much, but it's just not for me compared to what I've seen Lethal do in the past.
Joe's just been gone for me. Like he's been so out of the picture, and I don't think this is so much about the winner loser of the match. I think it's what you want to open up storyline wise out of this moving forward, and I think it's more interesting to have Joe as a potential challenger to Gresham or Claudio than it is for him to be wrapped up in the TV title.
Yeah, it just becomes one of those things again, and I know we've said it 100 times, like if and when there's a show, you know what I mean?
Right.
A lot weighs on that, and makes predictions much harder, but also really fun. The amount of fantasy booking you get to do right now.
One thing before you move on, Ace, I just, because Sneed brought it up, and I feel like it's got to be said because we haven't talked about it. The YouTube build up to this card has been absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
The videos they're putting out, the almost HBO boxing style face-offs between FTR and the Briscoes, the Yuda Garcia face-off, the package between Joe and Lethal, and pulling the old footage. They did such a, I mean, this is almost like right out of the playbook of the UFC.
Yep.
A lot of the stuff they're doing, showing these old matches and building the intensity. Like, this is something that hasn't been, no other wrestling company's doing this. The way they're building their hype videos feels so fresh and original.
And it's different than AEW. And I think that was important to establish that it was going to be different from the beginning. And it doesn't feel like AEW light at all. When you watch the production, it feels like a completely separate entity.
It's different.
If you have someone who has no idea that Tony Khan owns both, they wouldn't know that it's owned by both guys. It feels completely different presentation wise. And I think that, and also having the absolute monster library that ROH provides, it gives so much importance to each match. Like having Claudio's the difference that makes to be able to show those highlights. It does more for Claudio than anything else that WWE's ever done, because they're able to show him in a way that ROH wants to present him. And we only have seen him for a few weeks. And at that point,
very serious.
It does.
It doesn't feel like there is not an inkling of sports entertainment in this buildup. It feels, talk about presenting it as a sport. This feels very serious, very legit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the thing is too, just going back to the library for a second, and that would be valuable enough for Tony Khan to make the purchase for ROH. Having the library is enough to, like, it builds the story for you. Claudio and Gresham was built on just having, I was sold on it from when they announced it, but I also became even more sold on it when I saw the highlights, when it made me empathize with Claudio's run towards wanting to win the ROH championship. And he hasn't even been involved in this feud for that long. And it's crazy when you have the right promotion behind something, how great it can really make it feel. All right.
Big fight, Phil.
Big fight, Phil.
Big fight, Phil.
All right. So let's move on to the women's championship. We have Mercedes Martinez, the defending champion, taking on Serena Deeb, fresh off of, that big program she had with Thunder Rosa where she came up short. This match is for the Women's World Championship. I like this spot for Serena Deeb. I think it's a good spot for her to be instead of just being lost in the mid-card of the women's division right now. It's a good spot to be. Serena Deeb fits the aesthetic of ROH. I see her winning. I truly think she's going to beat Mercedes Martinez and be the ROH Women's champion, and I think she's going to be ushering in the new era of women's wrestling in ROH. And it's aesthetically different than AEW, which is cool.
She hasn't lost a match since Double or Nothing in May.
I'm with you. I think she takes it. I think there are other women crowding the AEW division. I think we're seeing them kind of like set their sights on pushes for Statlander, Athena, Ruby Soho, Tony Storm, Ty and Anna Jay are now. There's a lot going on in that division. I think it's a very, very wise move to take a technical, she's what she called the professor, the woman of 1,000 holds,
Right.
I think it fits.
Damn. I guess I'm on an island over here because I'm just like, the fact that Serena Deeb's even in the match makes me pull a hawk and go, meh.
I felt that way in AEW though, like the Thunder Rosa feud. I think she just feels more.
I agree. I felt the same way there. I don't know.
I don't think either one of these women feel like ROH. It'd be one thing if Serena Deeb was coming in against the ROH original, or it doesn't feel like Mercedes Martinez was signed to AEW.
Yeah.
She had that angle where she came out and hit Thunder Rosa with the lead pipe and all of that. Like she was helping Britt Baker. I think this is a pick'em fight, but I definitely leaning Deeb.
I just feel just Serena Deeb is just absolutely boring to me. But I guess maybe in the same way Dean Malenko is boring. I don't know. Like she's a good wrestler. She just bores the fuck out of me.
It's a good comparison for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Dean Malenko's the guy you look back on and like, God damn, every match he was in was fire.
Yeah, the
Singing his
matches
praises
are good,
all day.
but, oof, I don't know. I think Mercedes lifts the brand more. I don't know. I think she's. I don't like her that much either, if I'm being honest. But
I didn't know Hawk joined the stream.
listen, honestly, I just don't respect women.
Now he's really here.
Here we go.
Going off
Now
the
he's really
rails.
here. Well, they're about to
no,
clip
no.
that on Twitter, dude, and then that's just going to be clipped.
Freeman,
taken out of context.
Freeman burger.
I come from Twitch politics. You think this shit scares me? I had 10,000 people call me a groomer like literally a month ago. So, but
I'm a Deeb fan, so I take what you're saying very personal, and I want to fight about it.
fucking dweebs is what you guys are.
So the thing is with Deeb, I think the one thing she has going for her, it's her style of wrestling is so different than what AEW is doing, and I think it makes both divisions feel different. I don't think she has right now. She didn't have a place in the AEW World Championship landscape. I liked the build for it. I didn't get behind her. I didn't take it seriously. That's where the top of the ramp thing came from. That whole build with Thunder, it didn't feel serious. You never felt like Serena was a threat for it. I think the perfect landing spot was to establish her there because she's still very good in the ring. She has a lot to give to the wrestling business. And why not put it on her and have her start and be the person to build around?
I just think
I'll tell you what.
I think it's like shitty for Mercedes Martinez, who has been carrying like out of anyone that's been a Ring of Honor wrestler that have been going on other shows, obviously AEW. She's been like the most consistent, right? At like defending her title, even though it's been on, basically nothing. You have to go to YouTube or Rampage to watch it. Yeah, or Dark.
She's had four successful title defenses.
Yeah, that's more than anyone has had since that title, right? Since she's won it. Has any other Ring of Honor title been defended more? Maybe Willa Yuda's. I don't know.
I don't think Yuda's defended the Pure Championship that much. Maybe once.
Yeah. So like she's put in the most work, and to be the one to lose the title, I think would be weird. But
I will.
My heart won't be broken if she loses the belt. Like I don't care that much,
right?
Because there's just not much of a women's division for a group that has no show. So it's kind of hard to do. I will say
that the build for this was better than Deeb and Rosa because
100%.
Because
it's a low bar.
I mean, it's a very low bar, but at least they've had story with Deeb and Martinez teaming together.
Yeah.
At least there's that aspect of it. They're not just talking in the ring or top of the ramp.
And honestly, let's be honest here. They fucked Deeb up
top of the
ramp
that
push. Like that was all on Tony Khan's lap I love Tony Khan, but they had spent over a year building Deeb, and Deeb was going on a tear. It all started with that fire match she had with Riho on the buy-in at Double or Nothing 2021 when we were there. That was an underrated fire match. And it started from there, and they had this huge build to get her as this challenger to Thunder Rosa. And then, we got top of the ramp promos for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, retroactively looking at it, if they were going to book Thunder the way they've been booking her, why not just put the title on Deeb in May?
Because you can't have matches in front of a TV.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The television in the back of AEW.
Because at least would be more interested in tagging him. Tagging him, Tony Storm, is brutal. Like it's just a brutal thing for a world champion to be doing. It's awful. A side plot. What are we doing?
I know this is I can't substantiate this. Serena Deeb, for some reason, reminds me of Hillary Clinton. The way she talks, and the way I feel like she has this attitude of I deserve this. And I don't know, it annoys the shit out of me.
That's a good heel.
I guess.
Yeah. I'm going to leave that there. We'll leave that for the Twitch. If you guys want more of that, twitch.tv/FREEMZ, check them out. I'm predicting that Serena wins this match. Everybody seems to be in agreement except for FREEMZ, who thinks Mercedes Martinez is retaining the title.
He's holding out hope. It's not going to
Okay.
happen.
Well, this is
All right.
coming from the guy that's glad that Eddie Guerrero's dead. So
Well, no, I think what it really is because you guys don't want to support a Latin wrestler. Eddie Guerrero, and you guys want the white woman to win. I get it.
I love Mercedes.
at least I'm not glad that Eddie's dead. So that was rough, man.
We're going to ride that train.
All right. So this is the biggest match of the night. I mean, I know it's technically not the main event, but this is why we're all here. 2 out of 3 falls, the ROH Tag Team Championship. FTR defending against the Briscoes. So if you guys watched that, what would you even call it? Media scrum they did together where they were shaking hands and sharing a drink.
It's kind of like a sit down.
Yeah, it was a sit-down interview with them, proposing a 2 out of 3 fall stipulation after the Briscoes claimed that FTR were the fresher team in their first meeting. The Briscoes said they were wrestling multiple times per week, while FTR only had to occasionally wrestle on AEW Dynamite. Briscoes called FTR's win a fluke and said Supercard of Honor was the luckiest night of FTR's lives. As we know, match of the year candidate. I don't think it's been topped yet. FTR defeated the Briscoes at Supercard of Honor in April to win the ROH Tag Team Champion to usher in this new era of Tony Khan's level of Ring of Honor. What are we feeling? Chad, tell me about how you're feeling. How excited are you?
Let me go first on this one.
Yeah,
So
go
I got
FREEMZ.
things to say real quick, and then you guys can bark at me for a little bit. Number one, no shot the Briscoes lose this. I don't think there's no shot. I also think there's no shot that the Young Bucks don't get involved. Maybe that's why the Briscoes win it. Number 3, for some reason, this doesn't feel as special to me as the last one. I think it's going to be a great match, but it just doesn't feel as special. I guess it's a normal. It could be that it could change. The match could happen. It could change my thoughts completely, but yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Well, let me go by your. Let me comment on what you said.
Start with 1.
Okay, so what was 1 again?
Number 1, there's no shot the Briscoes lose this.
There's a shot, but I'm going Briscoes to win.
Yeah.
You said that the Bucks get involved, number 2, right?
Well, okay, then let me substantiate my first one real quick. The reason why I feel that way, if they wouldn't announce that exclusivity deal, I would say like there's probably more of a shot that it's up in the air. But after that announcement, I'm like, there's no way they lose this.
Yeah,
They want and you want the titles on them whenever Ring of Honor gets going, right? Like, who better to have it on?
right. And then you said
Canyon.
the Bucks get involved.
Yes.
I want them to. I feel like they got involved at Supercard of Honor. I feel like, me and Ace did the little video on FTR Briscoes where we were fantasy booking a trilogy, a 3-way, a 6-man. What do you call that? A triple threat match.
Triple threat
Winner
tag team
take
match.
all 3-way tag match.
I
man.
mean, come on, man. That's as good as it gets. But I worry now with rumors of Omega coming back and rumors that they're holding off FTR Bucks because of Omega's return and a possible storyline being tied in with him. I'm worried that they're going towards Bucks, Omega, Adam Cole, Red Dragon.
What if Omega shows up here?
No,
with the
that
Bucks
I don't. There is
and
no
FTR up?
shot in
good
hell.
point.
Tony
they're not
Khan.
gonna- yeah, that's a good point.
No way.
You're right. You're right.
And your
It'd
third,
be cool.
it would be cool, and I would love it. But your
No,
third thing,
You're right.
you said
It doesn't feel special to me.
doesn't feel special. Completely agree. There's no way it can.
Right.
The first match was years of shit talk on the internet between these two, cutting promos. Everyone was just wanting that first meetup. It had that feel. The air was so thick in those seconds before the bell rang. Like,
Yeah.
we had just waited and waited and waited, hearing these two teams cut just brilliant promos on each other,
Dude,
strictly on Twitter.
I put the build up for that match up to like Tyson Holyfield.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, it felt like a big
Or Team Liddell.
UFC
Like,
Yeah.
like you're just waiting for it to happen. And when
It
it
was like
happens,
Chael
it delivers.
Sonnen, Anderson Silva, when
Yeah.
Chael Sonnen
Oh,
was just
perfect.
ragging on him, and
Great
we're like,
analogy.
man, he's going to get his ass whipped. I can't wait to see this. Like,
Dan Henderson, Michael Bisping.
Yeah, it had those type of vibes to it. So I don't think there's any way a rematch will, it's like watching a movie for the second time. It's never going to be your first time again. Now you can watch it again and get a whole new appreciation. I think the match is going to be phenomenal.
But then at the same time, look back, Joe Punk too. I mean,
True.
fucking ends up being like a big bright spot. Like, I don't know.
It could top it. It could top it.
I think about Rock and Austin. You know,
Yeah.
the trilogy they had at WrestleMania 17 is considered the best. It was the second in the trilogy.
Yep.
I don't know if we're ever going to get that energy again because you can't recreate the atmosphere that happened WrestleMania weekend that, you know, a whole year ago at this point because of how anticipated it was. That's not to say it won't deliver in the ring. I think adding the layer of 2 out of 3 falls creates a different dynamic that makes it interesting.
Yes.
It makes it more intense. You're going to build up. Clearly, they're going to a third decisive fall. The drama and the near falls, it writes itself. And I think inevitably, this isn't the last time we're going to see them wrestle in a ring together, but it might be the last time for a while.
Yeah.
I think that's why they did 2 out of 3 falls to get a decisive winner.
Well,
And if the Briscoes win, it's a decisive nod in the direction of they're going to be a part. Tony Khan confirmed it, but it's also a huge badge of honor that they're walking into Ring of Honor establishing. They beat FTR and they took the belts off
and
them.
you leave an epic trilogy rubber match on the table.
I'll give you my TLDR fantasy booking. It's 2 out of 3's match. They have a barn burner of a match for like the first 2. Young Bucks cost FTR for the last one. And then they can go into maybe Omega comes back after that on AEW as they're feuding along with Adam Cole somewhere in there. I think this could be a great launching point for that. And then you also get like the Briscoes being pissed about it too. You can also do a Young Bucks Briscoes. You can do, which have had phenomenal matches. I think they had a Metzler 5-star even.
I was there live for the ladder match they had.
Yeah, I think that was the 5-star, wasn't it?
Yep, in Baltimore.
Do you guys think? Because at first I was like, yeah, there's no way that why have them get involved at Supercard? Tony's very smart. He never does anything haphazardly. Like shit always has a thread with him through story. But I am having doubts that the Bucks show up. What do you guys think? You know, are you buying or selling that the Bucks show up at Death Before Dishonor?
I think they show up right now. They're purposeless until Omega gets back. They're floating in the ether. Even if it's not a long-term storyline they're building towards, they planted the seeds. And like you guys said in the flagship, Tony Khan very rarely, if ever, has something happen outside of canon. There's a reason that happened at Supercard of Honor. He planted the seeds. We're going to see the tree start to blossom. I think inevitably, whether it's a triple threat or just the Briscoes Bucks, there's going to be involvement with the Young Bucks in ROH in some capacity. So I think they do show up. I don't think they cost anybody the match. I think we may get another showdown.
Hey, I wanted to bring that up too. I think that's a possibility as well. I think they might not. I don't think you can make either tag team look weak.
Right.
I actually think that like it makes more sense to cost FTR the match because they've been on such a fucking run for the last year.
And if they're not wanting to do some big belt versus belt thing, this could be the first step to stripping away those titles from FTR so they can go after another AEW tag team title reign.
But also, where does that leave the Bucks? Like, I feel like, or not the Bucks, but the Briscoes. Like, they would probably want some sort of like, all right, this is fucked up. I think but it also sets up the potential of the trilogy, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I think 2 out of 3 falls leaves you an option where the Bucks can cost FTR the match, but you can have the Briscoes get a clean fall in there as well. So like have them beat them clean for the first fall, second fall FTR goes over, and then the third fall, if the Bucks get involved, it's not hampered by booking what makes the Briscoes look weak because they already beat them one fall, and it was the first fall the match would have been over. So I guess there's kayfabe wise of making it make sense in my mind at least, but I think the Bucks are going to be involved.
Yeah, I think they show up in some form or fashion. I just my final thing on it is I just can't see a world where the first time FTR showed up on ROH television was Final Battle. This was prior to Tony buying it. They showed up, pretty much whipped the Briscoes' ass. The Briscoes are out on the floor, staring up at FTR inside their ring, looking down at them. That built the hype towards Supercard. Supercard happens. FTR wins clean. Bucks come in, get involved at the end. Now you're doing Death Before Dishonor. I just can't see them putting the Briscoes down 3 times in a row. At some point, you've got to throw the Briscoes a bone because they can't just be FTR's whipping boys. They have to get one up.
Yeah, that's I'm starting to lean more towards Young Bucks show up after match. I do think they're there, but
they'll be there. I think after the match is when they show up.
Yeah, I agree. I think I could see the other things still happening, but I don't think I want it to.
Let me just highlight this chat and aimbot again. Thank you for hanging out with us. Bucks get involved. FTR loses. Omega return. Punk beats Mox. Punk and FTR versus the Elite at Grand Slam. The stipulation is if the Elite win, Omega gets a shot at the belt, and FTR would have the belts, and the Bucks would have a title shot versus FTR at Full Gear. A lot to unpack there. A lot of fantasy booking.
Good booking, though.
I love it,
yeah,
though.
I kind of like it, though.
Kind of made my nipples hard.
Yeah, you're getting us going, man. Because, hey, they were going to, at Forbidden Door, FTR and Punk were supposed to be, kind of working together in that before Punk went down. There was a lot of they were kind of aligning them as a little trios.
Imagine if they get Bret Hart as a manager for that too. Because I found out Bret Hart's WWE deal was just a merchandise deal. He's still free to do whatever. So
yep.
I just think them leaving that Ultimo Dragon moment where he was in Japan with all of the belts on the table, photo op or not, it stinks, man. I wanted to see FTR have all the titles holding them once, and then you strip them down. They were so close to having the Infinity Stones of Championship belts. Just do a winner-take-all match.
Think about this. 2 years from now, they start racking up belts again.
Yeah.
And then to do something they didn't get to do the last time that they were so close to doing.
And
it makes it's like Rocky too.
Dude, there's tag belts out there that I think they want that they don't have too. They haven't worked a lot together recently, but they did work together a little bit. I think it just fits to at some point in the future, FTR has to get those NWA tag titles.
100%.
Yeah, makes sense.
It just fits, man. It's been a lot of people have been calling for that. We know the Briscoes went over to NWA, won that Crockett Cup. I would love to see FTR enter the Crockett Cup next year.
Be phenomenal. And I would love to see either one of them, preferably Dax in the G1 next year. I think, man, there's so many possibilities. And that's what's great about this open door policy that and progressive thinking that Tony has and other companies do have. Obviously, Gato and New Japan and NWA has the same mentality. But, we know the phone line works between NWA and AEW. They've had open challenge. Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks are both from there.
Thunder Rosa
as well. And I'm sure they're bitter a little bit that they left them.
Yeah.
But still, it's good exposure for NWA to say this is where the talent came from.
Yeah, and I think Billy Corgan has a healthy understanding of realizing he gets who he gets, and he knows if they're young, they're going the next step up. There's the NWAs, the MLWs, then I guess you could say the Impact, and then you got the big boys, and that's just the natural progression of sports. You're going to go where the money's at.
Yeah.
Still holding out hope we get that triple threat match with all the titles on the line. If they somehow get Swerve and Keith Lee to drop the titles to say or the Bucks or whatever, put every single title on the line, there would never be a tag team championship with as many stakes, whether it be gimmick or not. People will tune in to watch that. Put it on Dynamite too. That would be insanity.
I'll be honest, that's part of the reason I was kind of upset that Swerve and Our Glory won those titles, because everything was so perfect. It was just lining. So when they dropped those belts, it was like,
And then if you have the Briscoes as ROH champions, you have AAA New Japan Pro Wrestling tag team champions, or IWGP, I should say, for FTR, and AEW champions with the Young Bucks. All the teams are shrouded in gold. They're absolutely stacked. It's not like one team's going in with everything, and then you combine them all at once, and then you could separate them. But just that one photo op and just the picture forever, like FTR with all the belts around them. It doesn't have to be FTR. It could have been the Briscoes, or it could have been the Bucks. I just want one team to have all those belts, because
Yeah.
Very rarely does it ever. Serendipity doesn't happen a lot in wrestling, and everything's kind of broken to the point where the AAA belts are available, the IWGP belts are available, and they're not going to be available forever. You need to put those belts back in their promotions because those teams need to compete for something.
And those moments are so rare. Like, to this day, what two pictures, when you think of people holding all these straps, you think of that Ultimo Dragon picture, you think of that Dudley Boys picture with all the belts.
Yeah.
That's rare, man. So to have FTR holding all that gold, that's something that goes beyond just a picture. We're talking about those Ultimo Dragon Dudley Boys pictures now, and that was a couple decades ago, 15, 20 years ago. You know, like it's
becomes stuff a legend.
Yeah.
Cardona has one now.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think the Briscoes go over here, and I think we're in store for a third rubber match, but not anytime soon. I think they're going to go their separate ways for now, and I think that's good for them.
Yeah.
Don't want to do it too soon. Maybe a year or two from now, you have the match happen. But the Briscoes are doing their own thing, running roughshod over the Ring of Honor division. FTR is still doing their damn thing, and then go from there.
It's just so cool and awesome that we live in a world as wrestling fans where the Briscoes and FTR are under one Tony Khan umbrella.
Yeah.
And it's anything can happen. It makes being a fan so fun to think of all the possibilities, all the feuds that Briscoes will have, all the feuds that FTR have ahead of them, the Bucks. This is, to me, tag team wrestling is my favorite thing right now as a wrestling fan is tag team wrestling.
Yeah, they make it exciting.
And it means something again, which is fun. And it feels like world championship caliber matches where even I said it in jest, we know the world championship is going to main event, but you could have put either one to close the show and it wouldn't have felt weird.
Right.
Do you see the Usos and Street Profits closing a main event of a premier live event? No, it's not happening. It's about prestige and making the titles feel important.
I could have a hot take right now.
Do it. Hot take right here on Honor Society. We got 10 people watching live here on YouTube, but we got who knows how many people
I say
watching
every
on Twitter.
hot take that comes to my head. So
Usos are fucking underrated or overrated. Overrated. Every time someone brings up the Bucks or FTR, WWE fans feel the need to throw them in as one of the best. I don't see it. I don't
think that they're
not bad. They're good.
I think if they could you imagine if they were in AEW? I think they'd be pretty phenomenal, but I think WWE just has shitty booking.
But you are what you are. You know what I mean? In wrestling, you can blame bookers. I get it. You're a slave to the booking system, 100%. But that's on you, dude. You're choosing for your career to be dictated by the booker that you're taking the paycheck from. So that is the legacy you're creating because you're choosing to work for that booker. And in my opinion, the Usos are extremely overrated. Like, I think they're a great team, but how many goddamn times can you see iterations of Usos and New Day? At a certain point, you build your legacy by the opponents and storylines and angles that you shoot. And you can't just keep rehashing New Day, Usos. You can't give them a Raw down, SmackDown title, unify it under one company. It's all under one company. That means jack shit to me. Like,
I'll be honest with you. I haven't watched a single episode of WWE since WrestleMania. I haven't watched any of it since Mania. I just like the idea. I would like to see what they could do in something like AEW, and they've just never been a part of anything like that in the Indies or
it's hard to say. I mean,
through that system, but like when Jeff Hardy went to AEW. Yes, Matt. He goes, all right, well, where's creative? He goes, you're creative. Like, he's like, that's you. He's like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah. So I'd like to see what the Usos could do. But yeah, you're right. Like, they're still overrated, I guess. Because
they're great. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on say they're a bad team. Obviously, they're good. They're entertaining. They put on fun matches. But I'm talking a lot of people always throw them in the conversation of the greatest, and I completely disagree. I could name off 5 teams right now that I think are better.
And they're all
most of those. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
But you know what? The thing is, they are a product right now. They came up through FCW and they went through WWE. They are completely a WWE creation. So it's hard to say one way or the other what they would do with the shackles off. Could they be better? Maybe. but we don't know. And I don't know if we ever will know because they seem like they're lifers.
Yeah.
Who knows who else is going to put up with the bullshit of how many DUIs these guys fucking get. So,
I mean, if anyone from WWE is going to make that list, it's New Day. I mean, over Usos.
And honestly, man, like, how can you say you're the best when you're wrestling the Performance Center style your entire career?
true.
You're not going to AAA and fighting the lucha style. You're not going to Japan and fighting a strong, the strong style. You're fighting a very, very safe style, and safe that gives you longevity, but wrestling a safe style for longevity doesn't do much for your legacy, in my opinion, as a fan. Now, other people may see it differently, but that's not how I see greatness and legacy and greatest of all time. You don't earn that by staying in one company.
Goes back to that Talking Smack promo that Miz and Brian had against each other, and Brian called out Miz for being a shitty wrestler, and it's because he's involved in the WWE system. The Usos, in a lot of ways, are the watered down WWE version of all these great tag teams we've been talking about. FTR was the exception always, because despite the fact that they were stuck in that model and with the shackles, they decided to leave. The stuff that the Revival was doing on Raw was garbage. They were doing the comedy act, but in NXT, which was the modern, the AEW before AEW was AEW, NXT was doing it on the black and gold brand, and that style of wrestling was adapted, and that's where the Revival thrived. The Usos never did that. They've always been main roster guys who, I mean, FCW as well, but they learned just the WWE safe way of working. They're the Miz level of tag teams.
But dude, an FTR Revival at the time, that was when NXT was the kind of the super indie with
100%.
Great production. They came up in an era when they were having 5-star bangers against American Alpha, DIY with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. That tag division in NXT at the time the Revival were in there was phenomenal. It was iron sharpens iron. It's just then they go up to the safe, hey, let's dumb it down for the casuals tag team division that Vince has never cared about, and they saw the writing on the wall and they got out. And great.
I know it's a simplistic way to look at it, but just the belts themselves look like shit. So, I know the AAA titles leave a lot to be desired, but the red straps with the penny logo, it's horrible.
Sneed loves them.
Yeah, fuck them.
All right, so before we get too far off track, let's move to the main event over here and talk about Jonathan Gresham defending the championship against Claudio Castagnoli. So we talked everything about the match. John Gresham coming in as that big bad heel with Tully Blanchard in his corner. Claudio, this is where he was rumored, or I guess confirmed by Tony Khan, to be debuting here in this spot. FREEMZ, let's start with you. Take on this match and who's winning?
I'm excited for the match. I think Claudio wins it. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. I think it's actually. I'm indifferent. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know if it's good or bad for Ring of Honor. I think it's good for Ring of Honor for him to have it, if he still has it whenever they get a show.
This
just
is the
has so much
toughest match to
recognition.
predict.
Yeah, very, very hard. Very difficult. I'm not going to be upset no matter who wins, I don't think, though.
This is his first championship defense since April, believe it or not. Battle of the Belts 2, where he defended against Dalton Castle. It's been that long. Obviously, John Gresham's been trying to overcome injury, getting back. He missed some dates back in the early summer where he had the concussion injury. So I'm glad to see he's active. For me, before I move on to Sneed and Chad's pick, they just turned him heel. They just put the heavy on him. They just started to push him in a direction that he's finally interesting. He's not just a technical wrestler with the belt on his waist. He is the main heel, and I think Claudio's got to do some chasing to get to him. I think eventually Claudio gets it, but I think Gresham wins, whether it be shenanigans or not. I think they're going to still put some heat behind John Gresham to get him to feel like he's the main guy. They still have some work to do there.
I'm gonna give my prediction real quick because I got to jet out of here real fast. But I'll go ahead and give my prediction. I do think Gresham retains, and it's for the reason that you had just said. With him making the big change, joining up with Tully, I don't think it's time. I don't think, and Claudio's just now finding his footing. I don't think he's landed just right yet to where it's time for him to have a title. So I think I think Gresham 100% retains this.
Yeah, I could see that. I just see there being some value. It depends on how much they're going to put Gresham on AEW, while there's not a ROH show. And there is value in having that belt on AEW from both standpoints, from Tony Khan having money invested into this, and for ROH for it to be seen and fresh in people's minds at all times. But I mean, if they're good,
yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead, Chad.
I think the two arguments in my head that I bat around is what helps the long-term popularity of ROH more? Bringing in a popular former WWE wrestler like Claudio, who has ties to ROH, to kind of bring eyes. Damn, he's the champion. I know that guy. I'll watch. Or does it help the brand better to have a guy like that with eyes on him put over your new younger guy and make people be like, damn, he beat Claudio? Who is this guy? So that's what's batting around in my head. And I think Gresham takes it. I think you don't put him with Tully and do this heel turn only for him to eat shit on the pay-per-view. I think Tully probably gets involved. Somehow he wins, but I don't think it's necessarily a clean win. And I think Claudio's isn't hurt at all by it. Gresham, if he loses, I think there's a little bit of damage done to him. Not anything serious, but I do think it would hurt Gresham more to lose than it would hurt Claudio.
And the built-in storyline that Claudio has at the Blackpool Combat Club is already existing. It feels like if Gresham loses the championship, where is he going from here? Because he's a guy who his whole existence was ROH. He's floating in. And I think eventually Claudio probably will win the championship, or maybe not. But I think this isn't the last we've seen of the feud. I think the heel gets the win here. And then you got to make Claudio earn it a little bit here. He just got here.
Yep. I agree. 100%.
Well, Sneed, get out of here. We'll see you soon.
Yep. You guys, I bid you adieu.
Yeah, later,
right.
man.
See you guys.
Later.
All right, so any final thoughts on the main event before we move to our final handshakes and move on for the night?
I will say, even though I'm picking Claudio, it's not by much.
Yeah, it's a pick 'em, man.
And I'm still picturing Blackpool Combat Club holding all
the gold.
It would look great.
So
it would look absolutely great. Typically, our next segment here would be honorable mention, where we talk about some stuff for the history. But since we did cover a lot of Death Before Dishonor, we just stuck to the card. So that segment will be returning in full in the future. But we're going to move to our final handshakes, get our stuff in, and say goodbye. All right, so make sure you guys like and subscribe to turnbuckletavern.com. We have everything you guys need. Shirts. We're on every single platform, guys. Please give us some love. We all appreciate you guys going out of your way. We're giving out hours of free content at this point. Every single day of the week, you're getting some level of wrestling chatter, and we love to do it. But leaving a 5-star review and buying a shirt goes a very long way. And we do have shirts. They're a little antiquated now with the yellow merch, but put out there, and they are collector's items, as I mentioned before. Get yourself a President's Need shirt. That FREEMZ shirt is good as ever, man. Black and white with the Descendants. Clean. That is a great shirt. Or just, check it out. There's other merch out there for every single show that we have. Support the Tavern. Make sure you guys go out there. And also, just want to hype this up as well. Call 304-404-2004. If you have anything you want to talk about with Honor Society or anything to do with wrestling, you're just an opinion on some of the hosts here on the show, call the Tavern, leave a voicemail, and hear your message played on the flagship. Chad himself and Sneed will break it down for you, and you'll get your airtime. If you ever want to be on the Tavern, call us and make it known.
Man. Hit us up. You can do anything. Complain, bitch, prank call us. Do anything, man. We'll play it.
Awesome. So you know what, FREEMZ, twitch.tv/FREEMZ. What's going on your land with the streaming stuff?
Just it's been growing a lot. We have a new show every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. It's kind of a pop culture kind of debate show. It's basically garbage TV for Twitch, if I'm being honest. Where we shit on people. So we hit 50 viewers on that first episode. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about it. And then I stream Sunday through Thursday. Occasionally, you can catch me do a stream at work too on Friday and Saturday.
Hell yeah. And then Chad, as far as you, the flagship obviously dropped this morning, which was an awesome episode. Go check it out if you guys have not checked out in audio format, Apple and Spotify, anywhere you can find your podcast. What else is going on your end?
Yeah, flagship drops every Thursday. This was episode 111, so we've been at it a minute on that show. Tuesday, the Broken VCR will return. If you're into film, me and Hawk will be breaking down the 1981 Michael Mann film Thief in honor of James Caan, who recently passed away. We're big film school reject movie nerds, so if you're into that, we go deep. Fucking GCW show will return after SummerSlam weekend to break down the People versus GCW. And keep your eyes peeled on Mondays that aren't GCW show days, because we have a new show called Villainy that is in early stages, where we're going to take each episode and really hone in on one major heel in pro wrestling and talk about what makes them great. So be all about bad guys, villains, heels. So keep an eye out on that. And theturnbuckletavern.com. Everybody's got shows on there. There's something for everybody. ROH, WWE, GCW, AEW. We cover it all.
And just real quick for my stuff, tomorrow, Shot of Nostalgia, we are covering 2 episodes of Nitro, the go-home show before Bash at the Beach, 1996, with the infamous Hulk Hogan heel turn, where we'll have some great guests. Matt from Extra Cooler will be joining us next week. But for this week, just Mike and myself will be reviewing the show. We have a lot in store. We'll go through the newsletter, talk all about that. And if you didn't get enough nostalgia, stay tuned. Second episode of Before Our Time, following with the Australian icon Nick Storm, Young Anthony, coming in there reviewing WrestleMania 2 this week. So it's going to be a great episode. Can't wait to see what they have in store for us. An absolute blast for WrestleMania 1. Love their insight. Love their take. The presentation was epic. If you guys check it was awesome. They did such a great job. And you know what? Like, it's an awesome perspective to have. A lot of people, we are so used to talking with wrestling fans. Like, Tom he watched those WrestleManias, and some fans have watched them a million times. But for those two guys, sometimes, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the first time they're watching these events and giving their raw reaction to it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think Flashback Fridays is what I'm calling it at the Tavern. I think it's the most underrated night of the week. Sure, it's nostalgia. It's evergreen. It's not keeping you up to date on the current product, but if you're just a diehard pro wrestling fan, or if you're wanting to learn about the past that maybe you missed, Shot of Nostalgia, Before Our Time, 2 super fun shows and vastly different in the approach. I love how you guys do it on Shot of Nostalgia. I love how Anthony and Nick are handling it. It's 2 completely different takes on the wrestling nostalgia trip.
It's awesome. I do appreciate that. And like you mentioned about the current day, there are times we tie it in with the current day. And it was so weird because as Forbidden Door was being built up, we're talking about Anthony Inoki building up that World Wrestling Peace Festival that happened in 1996. And it was completely different scenarios where it all fell apart. No one worked together. It became a really mess of a situation for Anthony Inoki, and they had to move the venue, and it wasn't a success. Well, Forbidden Door, it opened up, pun intended, another door for a future event.
That's the beauty of nostalgia shows is the parallels. Like, this is just, you hear it in general, not just wrestling, but you can learn a lot from history, or you're doomed to repeat it. Dude, pro wrestling is no different. And it's fun seeing you guys draw those parallels. And I'm sure as Anthony and Nick get deeper into Mania, they're going to start seeing things that succeeded, things that failed, and they'll have opinions on that. So it's a fun night, man. If you're at home on a Friday night, get you a drink, kick back, dive into some old school wrestling.
And it's an awesome time. And check out the rest of the shows in the Tavern. Like we said, turnbuckletavern.com has all your needs. Check it out. We'll continue to give you guys free content as long as we can, man. This is a blast. I'm having a great time doing what we do here.
Always a good time.
But on that note, guys, we have to disappear until
Wait,
Death
are we not
Before Dishonor.
doing honorable mentions? Is that not?
We are not, only because I think we went a little long with the preview. If you have a match you'd like to recommend, as always,
Yeah, throw one out.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good match to check out, just in case you haven't seen it. This is from 2010. Chris Hero and Claudio versus the Briscoes.
Oh, yeah.
Check that out, guys.
I think it was an ROH Big Bang, I think.
Check
Hell
that
yeah.
out.
So check that match out. That's your homework assignment. We will talk about that next. I'm going to certainly watch that. I'm looking forward to Death Before Dishonor on Saturday. We'll be back next Thursday reviewing everything that went down, talking about all the matches. But until next week, I'm the Ace for Chad for twitch.tv/FREEMZ. Also Sneed. Make sure you guys abide by the Code of Honor. We'll see you guys soon.